Hi everybody, this is Mr. Bob. So I've been doing some stories for other classes, and so I decided to record a story for you. Now, since we're not in school, I've had to do it on my home computer, and this is my own home. It's my fireplace behind me in the back there. But I'm able to record these, and I'm sending these to your teacher, and hopefully she can pass these on to you. Now these take a little bit of time, so I'm going to try to do one story a day, and if I can do more than that, I'll try later. However, the first story is from a book I have at home called The Complete Adventures of Curious George by Margaret and H.A. Ray. I hope you like it, and if you do, you can subscribe to this channel on YouTube, which is the link that the teacher will be sending you. Have a good day. We'll be back in school soon together, but until then, I hope you can enjoy this time we have together. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon. This is the Complete Adventures of Curious George by Margaret and H.A. Ray. This is George. He lived in Africa. He was a very good little monkey and always very curious. One day, George saw a man. He had on a large yellow straw hat. The man saw George too. What a nice little monkey, he thought. I would like to take him home with me. He put on his hat on the ground, and of course George was curious. He came down from the tree to look at the very large yellow hat. The hat had been on the man's head. George thought it would be nice to have it on his own head. He picked it up and put it on. The hat covered George's head. He couldn't see. The man picked him up quickly and popped him into a bag. George was caught. The man with the big yellow hat put George into a little boat, and a sailor rowed them both across the water to a big ship. George was sad, but he was still a little curious. On the big ship, things began to happen. The man took off the bag. George sat on a little stool, and the man said, "George, I'm going to take you to a big zoo in a big city. You will like it there. Now run along and play, but don't get into trouble." George promised to be good, but it is easy for little monkeys to forget. On the deck, he found some seagulls. He wondered how they could fly. He was very curious. Finally, he had to try. It looked easy, but... oh, what happened? First this, then this. Where is George? The sailors looked. At last they saw him struggling in the water and almost tired out. "Man overboard!" the sailors cried as they threw him a life belt. George caught it and held on. At last he was safe on board. After that, George was more careful to be a good monkey until at last the long trip was over. George said goodbye to the kind sailors, and he and the man with the yellow hat walked off the ship onto the shore and on into the city to the man's house. After a good meal and a good pipe, George felt very tired. He crawled into bed and fell fast asleep at once. The next morning, the man telephoned the zoo. George watched him. He was fascinated. Then the man went away. George was curious. He wanted to telephone too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, what fun! By the way, those are old-style telephones. Perhaps you've seen one, maybe you've not. Ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling. George had telephoned the fire station. The firemen rushed to the telephone. "Hello, hello," they said, but there was no answer. Then they looked for the signal on the big map that showed where the telephone call had come from. They didn't know it was from George. They thought it was a real fire. "Hurry, hurry, hurry!" The firemen jumped onto the fire engines and onto the hook and ladders. "Ding dong, ding dong, everyone out of the way. Hurry, hurry, hurry!" The firemen rushed into the house. They opened the door. No fire, only a naughty little monkey. "Oh, catch him, they cried. George tried to run away. He almost did, but he got caught in the telephone wire, and a thin fireman caught one arm, and a fat fireman caught the other. "You fooled the fire department," they said. "We will have to shut you up where you can't do any more harm." They took him away and put him in a prison. George wanted to get out. He climbed up the window to try the bars. Just then the watchman came in. He got on the wooden bed to catch George, but he was too big and heavy, and the bed tipped up, and the watchman fell over. And quick as lightning, George ran out through the open door. He hurried through the building and out onto the roof, and then he was lucky to be a monkey. Out he walked on the telephone wires. Quickly and quietly, over the guard's head, George walked away. He was free. Down in the street, outside the prison wall, stood a balloon man. A little girl bought the balloon for her brother. George watched. He was curious again. He felt he must have a bright red balloon. He reached over and tried to help himself, but instead of one balloon, the whole bunch broke loose. For an instant, the wind whisked them away and whisked them all away, and with them went George, holding tight with both hands. Up, up he sailed, higher and higher. The houses looked like toy houses, and the people looked like dolls. George was very frightened. He held on very tight. At first the wind blew in great gusts, then it quieted. Finally it stopped blowing altogether. George was very tired. Down, down he went, bump, onto the top of a traffic light. Everyone was surprised. The traffic got all mixed up. George didn't know what to do, and then he heard someone call, "George!" He looked down and saw his friend, the man with the big yellow hat. George was very happy. The man was happy too. George slid down the post, and the man with the big yellow hat put him under his arm. Then he paid for the balloon man for all the balloons, and then George and the man climbed into the car, and at last away they went to the zoo. What a nice place for George to live there. And that is the end of our story, The First Adventures of Curious George. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.